I mean, what's the last time you got an invitation to something? Maybe it was an Evite, or maybe to a wedding. That's about the only invitations that come in the mail these days. And everybody these days, man, they're so fancy and artsy and cool. I love seeing them. So send me all your wedding invitations. It's great. I like looking at them. What is it that you feel when you get invited to something? Especially to something like you really want to go to. So a couple of years ago, for example, I got invited to go to a Charger game with a friend, and he actually had box seats. It was amazing. You actually get to drive in this secret kind of driveway to the stadium, and you park like front row. You go up this secret elevator, and then you go in the secret door, and then you're in your own room on the 50-yard line. There's as much food as you want to eat. There's as much drink as you want to drink. I mean, there's couches. I mean, it is nice. I like being invited to that. So if any of you happen to have box seats, I would gladly welcome your invitation. That would be wonderful. Felt so good. But it feels good to be invited to something special. But it can go the opposite too, right? It can go the opposite way. Like you see pictures on social media of a bunch of people together at a party, and you're like, man, I didn't get invited. And then you feel left out, and you feel lonely and unloved. It can work the opposite way, right? Interestingly, Jesus, he told a story about being invited to the feast of all feasts, at God's heavenly banquet. I want to read it for you. It's in Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 through 10. And Jesus spoke in this parable, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son and sent his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. Again, he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast.' But they paid no attention, went off, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to the servants, 'The wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main roads and invite to the wedding feast as many as you can find.' And those servants went out into the roads and gathered all whom they found, both bad and good, so the wedding hall was filled with guests." This is such a great story that Jesus told. Wonderful story. Jesus basically telling us that, man, in heaven, there's going to be this great big party, and it's going to be wonderful. The God, the King, is throwing this wedding feast for his son. Who's the son? It's Jesus. He's the Son of God. And what happens, that's when the bride gets there, who we learn in several other places in the Bible is the church. The church is called Jesus' bride. They get there, that's when the feast happens, when Jesus' people get to heaven. So this story, it's actually more than just a story. Like all of the best stories are actually true stories. It's a real thing. The book of Revelation actually tells us that this feast banquet has a special name. It's called the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's the name of this feast. We'll come back to that and talk about it in a little bit. Now, what makes this story so great in Matthew 22 that Jesus tells is that the point of it, or the punchline of it, if you will, is that everybody gets invited. Everybody gets an invitation. Matthew was this hardcore Jew who used to think that only Jews would ever go to heaven until he met Jesus and became a Christian. The Jews are this group of people in the Old Testament that mainly the whole Old Testament part of the Bible is written about. So Old Testament's all the books written before Jesus came on the scene that are in the Bible. Talk about how God just specially worked throughout all those years of the Old Testament just with this one main people group, the Jews. So if anybody should be going to heaven, it should be the Jews, the special people that God always paid attention to, and he was the ones that he talked to and wrote all these books in the Bible about. They should be the ones going to heaven. But here Jesus says no. They weren't interested in the invitation because they're not interested in the Son of God. They're not interested in him. So really what Jesus is signaling here is this major turning point in history where now God sends out invitations to everyone, not just the Jews, everyone from all different people groups and races and religions and backgrounds. Everybody gets invited to the feast. They get an invitation. All are invited. Look again at that verse 10, the line of verse 10. And those servants went out into the roads, and they gathered all whom they found, both the bad and the good. Doesn't matter whether you've been a good person or bad person. God invites everyone to love his son and to come to his feast, to come to the party of the centuries. And you and I, we get invited. Too many people today, I think that you need to be a good person to go to heaven. I think you need to be a good person to go to heaven. It's actually not so. It's actually only bad people that ever really get to go to heaven, bad people that God has grace on and makes them good. Jesus says here both the good and the bad, people who think they're good and people who don't. The central message of Jesus' ministry is that it does not matter who you are, who you've been, what you've done, but there's a seat for you at the table. There's a seat for everyone, no matter who you are. You are invited. God invites you and I to sit at his table. That is so huge. I just think about that for a minute. Who's like one maybe famous person that, it would just be incredible. You'd love to be invited to their house and to party with them. For me right now, I think it would be Kelly Slater. So I'd love to invitation to his place, not just to go and eat and hang out, but I want to surf that man-made wave he made. It's up there in Fresno. It's pretty incredible. I should have brought a picture of it for you, but that would be awesome. Maybe for you, it's some favorite celebrity, or if you're a business guru. I don't know. Yeah, think if Bill Gates invited you to come to his house and have dinner with him. Or think of like Elon Musk. I mean, that guy's a genius. Wouldn't that be sweet? And that's the idea in the picture here. I mean, someone famous. Someone so far beyond your class or reachability. God, the creator of the universe, the king over all, invites us to his house, to his feast. What an invitation. And this is really one of the main reasons that the church exists, is to pass out invitations. We're the servants in the story that Jesus told. We're going out into the roads to people from all walks of life, and we're handing out invitations so that as many people as possible might be gathered into the banquet hall for the feast.